classes nobody advise it, but still you should know it. So basal body temperature, where a woman is advised to take her daily oral temperature in morning after waking. When she is still in the bed, before coming out of the bed, she should take her regular oral temperature and she should record it daily and she should maintain the graph. Now, if she is having normal menstrual cycle of 28 days, on the ovulation day, it is found that temperature drops by 0.5 degree Fahrenheit. Temperature drops on the day, if it is of 14th day, it drops by 0.5 degree Fahrenheit and then it raises to 1.5 to 1 degree Fahrenheit. Now, at this point, if after the ovulation, if fertilization occurs, this temperature is maintained because of thermogenic effect of hormone progesterone, which is secreted by the hormone luteinizing. This is the luteinizing phase. Progesterone secreted by corpus luteum. After the fertilization, we know corpus luteum of pregnancy forms and it maintains the pregnancy, whereby this progesterone is released and it has a thermogenic effect. So temperature is raised, 0.1 degree is maintained. Now, if there is no fertilization, temperature falls. If there is no fertilization, this 0.5 to 1 degree temperature falls, and then she can continue with the next menstrual cycle, again recording of the temperature. But it is not reliable, as if she suffers from naturally fever or some temperature, she cannot judge. Plus daily oral temperature without waking, brushing, sometimes she may forget and all. So a lot of things are there. It has given the wrong results. That's why this is now discarded, called as the basal body temperature. Next important one is dilatation and curettage. Now here a woman is admitted last night after admission. Her cervix is dilated and endometrium is curated. Some amount of tissue is taken, which is sent to the histopathological study into the lab, where if we know after the ovulation, 14th day after ovulation, this secretory phase should be there in the secretory, and secretory endometrium should be there in the secretory phase of the menstrual cycle. If ovulation has occurred, then secretory endometrium should be present. If at this point biopsy is done, secretory endometrium, this is seen in the secretory phase just before the menstrual phase. That's why this test is advised to be performed after the ovulation, before the menstrual cycle, in the secretory phase. If the changes are seen that endometrium is secretory, means it is well, progesterone effect is there, so it will form a secretory, and secretory endometrium presence means there is ovulation has occurred. If absence of secretory endometrium in secretory phase means an ovulation has occurred. So this is the confirmation by the endometrium or dilatation and curettage and its biopsy study. This is second. Third one important is USG. Most of the doctors now use this one as a first modality of investigation, serial ultrasonography, to know the Graafian follicular growth and dominant follicle development, as well as simultaneously ovulation has occurred or not. Some 18 micron here about is the normal diameter of the ovulation, which is seen 14 to 18 micron just before the rupture of the ova. So a woman is advised, now it is growing, alternate day serial sonography is advised from the in the mid-menstrual period, after the 8 to 10 days of menstrual cycle till the 16 to 18 days of menstrual cycle. Means mid-menstrual period is the period where regular ultrasonography or alternate day ultrasonography is advised. But this process is again costly and the time is consuming. That's why it is important one, but it is time consuming and it is costly. So everyone cannot afford it. But this will guide you whether ovulation is occurring or not by ultrasonography, by a gynecologist or a sonologist. Fourth important one is the presence of serum progesterone, which should be more than 50 to 20 mg, which again guides you that ovulation has occurred and corpus luteum is secreting normal amount of progesterone. If it is less than 15 mg per ml, means it will give you idea of okay, ovulation has occurred, but progesterone is deficient, means corpus luteal phase defect. That will also come to know by serum progesterone levels. Okay, so here we end the ovulation test, so investigations for ovarian disorders. Now cervical test. Here a Fern test. Again, the cervical mucus is taken in the OPD procedure. This mucus is taken after ovulation. It is spread over the slide. It is spread over the slide. The cervical mucus, when it is spread over the slide, it is viewed under microscope and it gives the beaded appearance due to the presence of estrogen. If normal estrogen is there in the cervical mucus, if normal estrogen is there in the cervical mucus, this will appear as a beaded one, means ovulation has occurred. Why this beaded appearance is there? Because of presence of sodium chloride, a crystallization takes place of the cervical mucus. So this is the Fern pattern or presence of the again this is another important one, and this is a thread test. This is a confirmation of the estrogen presence, means good cervical mucus. Thread test is again one more test where the cervical mucus is withstand to the tension. If it is drawn for 10 cm, it is considered it is having a normal estrogen. If it breaks in between, means there is no good cervical mucus or no estrogen effect. So this is all about cervical test. Now tubal test. Tubal test, we have to see the patency of the fallopian tube. Here, in this, three important tests are there. Number one, tubal insufflation. Number two, hysterosalpingography. Number three, laparoscopic chromotubation. Now, this is the important test for tubal patency, as this is the commonest cause of infertility in fallopian tube. If it should be patent completely to carry the ova and to take the sperm inside the ampulla. If anywhere it is blocked, we will visualize by this further investigations. Now, tubal insufflation was found by Dr. Rabin in 1920. It is also called as Rabin's test, whereby he advised to just inject the air through the cervix into the uterine cavity and just apply the stethoscope over the abdomen of a woman. This is the OPD procedure. If air has passed normally and through the infundibulum ostia openings, it is coming over the inside the abdomen, over the intestines. So on hearing with the if you auscultate it by stethoscope, we get the intestinal sounds. Means the tube is normal by injecting the air. But still a false positive negative results are there because of flatulence and all. So this test was again discarded. But you have to write on it. There are tubal insufflation, tubal patency test. You have to write on all three. You should know, but it is discarded. Tubal insufflation test. The most important used method is hysterosalpingography. Hysterosalpingography. Graphy itself is a visualization. Visualization of hystera. Hystera is related to uterus. Salpingo is for fallopian tube. Now this is important. What actually is done? A 15 to 20 ml of diiodone. This is a medium which is injected. Again, this is not the OPD procedure, but it requires a complete unit. It requires a radiologist, radiological unit, gynecologist, technicians and all, where a woman is asked to lie on the dorsal aspect of her body over the table. She is given a lithotomy position. Now this dye is injected through the cervix Now after injection, it is dry completely. It enters and if the uterus is patent, it fills up completely. Okay, and if tube is patent, again it fills up completely. Like this, it enters and it fills up. Somewhere if there is a block, it will not come out of it. It will block. Suppose a block is there, it will seen as if it is not felt completely. So on screen, after they injecting all this thing, it is visualized. Screening is done. On screening, for the permanent record, you can take 2 films in 30 seconds, and we can see what are the advantage of this. We can see somewhere blockage, the site of blockage, as well as if the chronic PIV tubercular salpingitis is there, you will also see the tubercle studded over the fallopian tube, and the appearance of the tube will also damaged. It will become retort-like, rod-like shape, which will look as a very hard or straight one. This flexibility you won't see if it is affected by tuberculosis of the tube. So this is very important to know the blockage, site of blockage, as well as pathology. So HSG is used frequently to know the defects, and further investigation is, once HSG is performed, laparoscopic chromotubation. Now laparoscopy is a visualization of lepra, that is pelvis, female pelvis. It is visualized through fiber optic endoscope called as laparoscope. Now once suppose HSG guided you, this is a site, then laparoscopy directly visualize this area. Okay, a 1-stitch procedure is there, hospitalization is required for a day, then procedure is done to know the site, and this can be used as a therapeutic, diagnostic as well as therapeutic. Chromotubation, chromo is related with color. So through the laparoscope, and the area which will be seen, which is not blue, which is considered as it is affected, these are the blockages. So laparoscopic chromotubation will again be helpful for diagnostic. Now laparoscopic lavage is also done. At the same time, diagnostic point is seen, the place of blockage is seen, and it is also flushed by solution. So laparoscopy can be a diagnostic as well as therapeutic. This is important modality in the field of infertility. So here we end the investigations: ovarian, cervical, tubal. One more test, that is post-coital test, where after the ejaculation in the cervix, the semen is examined for, so cervical mucus is examined for presence of motile sperm. So that this is useful. Post-coital test is mostly useful for medico-legal cases also. So here we end investigation etiologies as well as investigations in female infertility. In our next video, we'll continue.